And hello and welcome to the show. I'm John Bachman.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bianca De La Garza. We'll have much more on the breaking news there. Of course, Steve Bannon just speaking out moments ago, and he was outside the Washington, D.C. courthouse. Again, this is the conviction here for his refusal to comply with a subpoena. He was just sentenced to 4 months in prison, fined $6,500 for that contempt of Congress. Now, the judge, however, agreeing with Bannon's argument that the sentence should be delayed until his appeals process is resolved.
The former White House advisor was found guilty in July after not complying with a subpoena regarding the January 6th investigation. The DOJ had requested that Bannon receive 6 months in prison and a fine of $200,000. He received a slightly shorter sentence than the 6 months they were seeking. Joining us now to talk more about this is former acting Attorney General and Newsmax analyst Matthew Whitaker. Hey, Matthew.
Hey, John. Good to be with you and Bianca.
Well, what is your reaction to the sentence? And I think I looked this up real quickly. I think the last time a person was actually sentenced to prison for contempt of Congress was back in the 1930s. Does this seem extreme to you?
I think it's exceptionally extreme. I think Steve Bannon, as a private citizen, had a lot more rights than a member of the administration. You know, I see this case very similar to Lois Lerner, quite frankly, who never was prosecuted by the Department of Justice. This is a complete partisan witch hunt, against Steve Bannon, obviously to punish and to get after Donald Trump. And I just, it's going to be very interesting when the tables turn here, if expected in 2023, how the Department of Justice deals with future contempt referrals. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that way as well. And, back to actually, today was the sentencing, but during the trial, Matt, it was eight men, 4 women who convicted Bannon after just 3 hours of deliberation. Even though he had a great attorney, Steve Stone, they didn't even put on a case really because they kind of knew they were up against it. A conservative really basically cannot get a fair trial in D.C. from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, you just add this to the long list of unfair jury trial verdicts in our nation's capital. I mean, we just had one, where Durham tried to bring a case and the jury didn't want to hear about it. In Northern Virginia, the Sussman trial, same way. And, Bannon obviously was the other side of that coin, where a conservative, is not given what appears to be a fair hearing by a jury of his peers. I think it's something that really needs to be looked into, and I expect the new Congress in 2023 will, consider this issue as it relates to, political prosecutions and the bar that's required to overcome in order to bring those types of prosecutions.
Matthew, you mentioned Lois Lerner. I was also reminded of former Attorney General Eric Holder, who was also found in contempt of Congress for refusing to turn over those documents related to the Fast and Furious gun running scandal. And of course, he was the Attorney General at the time, so maybe that had something to do with it?
John, it's a great point. I mean, I think that is another example of a contempt of Congress that our founding fathers would not recognize this idea of a contempt of Congress that's enforced by the executive branch and therefore is subject to the whims of the partisan sides that are involved. I mean, there is Congress should be able to enforce their own subpoenas through having their own, way through the Sergeant at Arms and the Congress jail that does exist. But they have offloaded that by passing a statute to the executive branch. And again, it is completely fraught with partisan folly, because if you look at this committee, the January 6th committee that held Steve Bannon in contempt, there's not a single Trump supporting member. It is all Trump haters. The 2 Republicans are completely partisan. Both of them are going to be out of this Congress by the end of the year. And it's just, I think it is a real perversion of our system of justice. And, Steve Bannon, I think, has bravely stood in the gap and is willing to fight on. And I commend him for that.
Yeah, and we should note, too, the judge also said that he would not take him into custody today. He's going to let the appeals process, play out, which, does give him sort of a fighting chance there, perhaps on an appeal, Matthew. But is there anything we can take from today and forecast what this may mean for former Trump advisor Peter Navarro's contempt of Congress case?
I think if you look at the comments of the judge today during the sentencing, he had some real reservations about the fact that Steve Bannon, was convicted and now has to be sentenced. And I think he is concerned about where this is going. But Peter Navarro certainly should be expecting the worst and preparing for it. But at the same time, we'll see. A new Congress could alleviate a lot of these problems.
Well, we're getting there, midterms.
Yeah, I mean, but it is a shame that it's going to take a new Congress to alleviate these issues with the Justice Department and our justice system. It shouldn't be like that, Matthew. And as you indicated, our founding fathers would not recognize this because it does seem like the difference in the checks and balances continue to erode based on this case. And the fact that this January 6th committee is not viewed as a legitimate committee by both political parties, that you can have this and then create the contempt situation and then put Steve Bannon in jail as a result of it. You just wonder what's going to come. And Republicans are going to be out for revenge when they're back in power, which does not sound like a great situation. But we'll check back in with you, Matthew Whitaker, former acting attorney general. Always great to talk to you.
All right. Good to see you both. Thank you.
Thank you.